What's up, guys? It is Monday, which is admittedly not great, but you know, it is great that we have a jam-packed episode of The Sweat coming your way. Right now, I'm your host, Jesse Cofield. Here's what's on the menu. Going to be joined by a ton of analysts to talk about what's going on with the NBA playoffs. Celtics moving on. Let's go, baby. Tonight's baseball slate and this week in the PGA Tour. But we will begin on the ice with NHL.com's Anna Dua, RotoWire's Paul Bruno, and AJ Scholes. A Canadian team will not hoist the Stanley Cup after the Golden Knights eliminated the Oilers in Game 6 last night. Woo! All right. Let's see. Paul, thoughts? So sorry. I know you're not, an Oilers fan, but you are Canadian.
Yeah, and I'm still sore from the Leafs loss on Friday night. We haven't got a chance to talk about that, but there's a lot of consternation in town. What's going to be happening next for that group? And I think the same thing will be happening in Edmonton. And really similar issues. They've got a top-heavy lineup in both cities, and they're wondering what to do to fill in underneath to change the outcome. So that's the narrative in Canada.
Yeah, Anna. I just want to say, Paul, before we move on to Anna, I'm sorry that you're Canadian. Just today, I'm sorry for you.
I'll live with it.
Okay. Anna, what do you think?
Yeah, it's tough. Vegas was the better team in this series. I thought that Edmonton, to be honest, this Oilers group had all the pieces that it really needed to make a deep run this year. And we see the same issues with this group year after year. Major props to Bruce Cassidy. I mean, the guy's just a phenomenal coach. Vegas is a very strong team. The success they've had so early in their team's history is really, really impressive. Everyone on that team showed up last night. Adin Hill had the third period of his life. You got to give him a lot of credit coming in after Brossoit's injury. So Vegas deserved to win, but it's really tough for Edmonton with all the talent they have. And the fact that they really, I thought, in my opinion, did well at the trade deadline to set themselves up for a deep run. This is definitely not the way they want to go out.
All right, AJ, our not Canadian friend. How did you feel about this game? Marchessault with those 3 goals. I mean, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, like Anna said, a really strong Vegas team. A little surprising to see the Oilers let down by their offense in this one. They had 40 shots on goal. It didn't help their cause that they had just one power play opportunity. As expected, goaltending problems were the issue for them. The Knights scored just 5 goals on 22 shots. They put Campbell in for the third period, but that was too little too late, and he only faced 4 shots anyway. Obviously, you have to give some credit to Adin Hill, who had a really fantastic series, including a combined 108 shots faced over the last 3 games. But surprising to see Edmonton unable to generate some offense in that one.
All right, Anna, let's move on to the showdown contest for Game 7 between Seattle and Dallas tonight. Who do you feel like you have to have in the captain spot?
I'm done betting against these expansion teams, guys. It's like the expansion teams NHL right now. So you know what? The Seattle Kraken are having a storybook playoffs, and I think they keep it going for me. That starts with Jared McCann. The guy had an absolute phenomenal regular season this past year. Everyone underrated him, but he's a 40-goal scorer back in the lineup, is putting shots on net night after night. If Seattle wins this Game 7, he's going to be a big part of that, so I'm taking a look at him.
All right, AJ, who do you want in your captain spot?
Well, I was going to say I'm going contrarian tonight and looking at Seattle, but it seems like Anna and I are on the same page here. I think they have a real good chance of winning Game 7. So, if more people are on Dallas because they're the favorites in this game, it's a good GPP strategy to go the other route. I'm a captain Jordan Eberle here. He comes in at 10-8 tonight, pretty low compared to the top of the board here. Leads the team in goals with 6, second on the team in points with 11. Again, that discount compared to the top of the price range for your captain spot is going to afford you more opportunities to spend in other spots the rest of the lineup. So I like going Seattle in this one. If you're not going to go a little higher for McCann, consider going a spot or 2 back for Eberle.
Paul, are you going contrarian, or do you want to go with one of the stars on the stars?
I'm glad I get to go third here because I wanted to go the other way from these two. And when I do that in my history on this show, you guys know what the outcome is. It's about 90% in my favor, and that's no lie. So I'm going to go to Dallas tonight, and I'm going to take their goalies, Jake Ottinger as a captain's pick. This won't be a high-scoring game, and I trust the Stars to lean on their deeper lineup to to come through here. I don't like the expansion team narrative. Both these teams were given a hell of an advantage over previous expansion clubs, and I think it's time to stick the knife in one of them tonight, and I hope Dallas does it.
All right, what are we thinking here, Anna? Who else do you want to get into your lineup for this one?
I think in these type of situations, we've been over it, guys. You just got to stack up on the team that you think is going to win. And sorry, Paul, but I think it's going to be Seattle. Seattle, Vegas, Western Conference Finals, absolutely going to be insane with all the pain and stuff the original 6 franchises have gone through recently. But give me everyone on this team, guys. Give me Oliver Bjorkstrand, give me Eberle, give me Matty Beniers, Jaden Schwartz, whoever you can fit into your lineup. Vince Dunn, Philip Grubauer, maybe if he's getting the start in this one. I'm taking the Seattle Kraken. They're officially a wagon, and I'm on it.
Okay, AJ, are you on the Kraken wagon, or are you going to throw some stars in your lineup too?
Well, I mean, I'll obviously use one somewhere, just, because you have to, but I am with Anna here. I'm loading up on the Kraken tonight. One name off that entire list that she just rattled off, she didn't include, was Justin Schultz, the defenseman there. He comes in at just 4,600. I mean, that's such a low price tag that even if you're on Dallas, you might want to consider Schultz as your lone Seattle player here. He's got the most power play points in the postseason right now, leads the team defenders, leads all defenders on the team in production as well. So I think Schultz makes sense regardless of strategy, just because he comes in at 4,600. But I'm with Anna. Stack up on as many Kraken as you can tonight.
All right, Paul, what do you think? Do you want to throw some Kraken in your lineup after listening to these two?
Nope. Gonna go with Dallas tonight. Jason Robertson's very quiet this series. I think it's time for him to put his stamp on the closing act. And Joe Pavelski, I'm surprised AJ didn't talk about one of his favorite players in the NHL in this spot. I think he's going to have a say. And then Miro Heiskanen's been a tremendous force for them on the back end, running the power play, and he'll be playing 25 minutes or so tonight. So those are 3 guys I got my eye on for the Dallas victory.
All right, early prediction, Paul, for Panthers Hurricanes. What do you think? Look into your crystal ball.
Well, listen, I admit that I'm late to this party, and I give Anna full credit for being on Carolina early this season. I'm going to finally join her if she lets me on this bus, but they clearly have developed a winning formula despite the absence of their 3 key offensive pieces. They might be getting one back, in fact. Toivo Teravainen is expected to get back in the lineup at some point, perhaps toward the middle of this series. I think they still have too much going for them against the Panthers, who will try to lean on their strong forecheck, which I saw too much of in the last series. The difference is they will encounter in Carolina a club that has a number of mobile defensemen who are very adept at getting the puck up the ice quickly, and that could be a heck of a counter-strike opportunity for Carolina to get their offense going big time. And that'll be a key to slanting this series in favor of Carolina. I think it's going to be a short one, folks. 5 games for the game.
Anna, do you agree?
Well, I'm done discounting the Florida Panthers, guys. I feel like they've shown how much they want it this year. They come out with grit night after night, and they beat 2 very solid clubs. So I think this series is actually going to go the distance. I could see it going 6 or 7 games. I dare even say 7. But the Carolina Hurricanes are the only people in the NHL that have not disappointed me this season. I've been on them since the preseason, and you know what? They made me proud the entire year. So I'm an honorary North Carolinian now, guys, and I got to stick with my Canes. I think they're the best coached team in the NHL, which is huge in the postseason because regardless of what gets thrown at them, they find a way to get around it. Paul's absolutely right. Their defenseman core group is super dangerous. We see how impactful they are in terms of offensive production too, and they're really good at playing some shutdown hockey. They tend to be low-scoring games, which Florida's not going to like. So Carolina's booking its ticket to the Stanley Cup final, and I'm here for it.
AJ, what's your take on this series?
Yeah, I'm on the Carolina train as well here. I think they are just too deep. They're too good of a team. And as Paul mentioned, Teuvo Teravainen taking the ice this morning in a regular sweater. So looking like he could be back at some point in the next couple of games here, if not game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. That's just going to make this already deep team even better. And you consider, Florida is slightly more dependent on their top 6 when you look at the point production. It's not terrible. They have some depth themselves, but just not as much as Carolina. So I think the matchups are going to be a problem, especially if you throw Turbo back in there.
All right, good stuff, guys. Appreciate it. We're going to get our MLB panel's best bets and DFS plays for tonight. But we talked last week about the NFL schedule release. It was all we could talk about, all the great videos, the lines, the bets, now that the schedules had come out. But we haven't heard how the schedule is actually put together. So Ross Tucker had NFL VP of Broadcast Planning Mike North on the pod last week, and he gave a behind-the-scenes look about how it all comes together and goes down.
The goal is the television ratings, right? Like to get the best games possible in the prime slots, and we get that. When you go through individual teams, do you ever have concerns there, or as long as it didn't trigger, as long as the computer spit it out and it wasn't against any of the whatever you guys call it, the stops or whatever you put in the computer program, are you fine with it, or do you go team by team and make sure no one's getting what you perceive to be a raw deal?
Yeah, we go team by team. Most schedules die not because of, the television ratings projections or the Monday night game in week 7 or the CBS 1:00 window in week 11. Most schedules die for team competitive issues. The computers are brilliant, but they're also kind of stupid. They only do what you tell them to do. And if you don't tell them, hey, don't ever do that to a team, the computer doesn't know any better. So it'll spit out an otherwise outstanding schedule, but it'll have a 3-game road trip for somebody where they go all the way across the country and then a close road game and then all the way back across the country. That's a non-starter. So stop all the computers, write a new rule. Don't let any team have 2 cross-country trips in a 3-game road trip. But then the computer says, wait a minute, what if I put them right next to each other? What if that team wants to go and stay like the Giants are doing? They're going out to Arizona in week 2. They're staying out there and playing San Francisco in week 3. So the computer's got to know that that's okay. But if the computer said Giants at Arizona, followed by a road game at Philly, followed by at San Francisco, that's probably not good. And I'm sure at Arizona, home at San Francisco isn't good either for the Giants. So trying to tell the computer all the things that we're trying to avoid, while, like you said, at the end of the day, maximizing television ratings, maximizing viewership, it's really about putting the best games in the best windows so the fans can watch them. We're not doing our job. If you take that Kansas City Jets game or that Kansas City Cincy game, like I said, and you put it in a 1:00 window on CBS with 4 other games around it and 4 other games on Fox at the same time, it's going to get lost in the shuffle. Some of these games are just too big to get lost in the shuffle. So trying to find the right home, the right national, opportunity, the platform for all of our best games, and then kind of sprinkling around those without breaking, too many eggs while we're making this omelet.
The Dodgers have defeated the Padres 5 times in 6 tries so far this season, including 5 games in a row. So before we get to tonight's slate, let's talk about the regular season struggles the Padres have had against the Dodgers in recent years. 11 straight series losses, other than the playoff series last year. So pretty rough go for San Diego. Joe Musgrove has tried talking about it, but do the Padres need to show the ability to beat the best team in their own division before you think that we can start talking about them as World Series contenders? DraftKings contributor Tanner Kern and RotoWire's Eric Halterman are here to answer that question. So Tanner, what's your take on this quote-unquote rivalry, which doesn't feel like much of a rivalry when one team is absolutely dominating the other?
Yeah, it's not a rivalry at all. And not only do the Padres need to beat the Dodgers, they need to perform better in key areas of the game. When you look at their batting average, they're batting just .225 as a team, and they've had the 8th most strikeouts in Major League Baseball. Their core 4 is amazing, but this team has not delivered as a whole. And if they can't deliver on offense, they're going to have a very tough time because they have the definition of a mid-pitching staff. I don't think this unit's really going to take the next step until Blake Snell steps up. 1.5, 4.61, 1.54 whip, and really struggling on 1-1 counts, which are critical in Major League Baseball. So yes, they need to beat the Dodgers, but they also just need to play better as a whole.
Yeah, Eric, do you echo that sentiment? Obviously, they need to beat the Dodgers, but we can't even talk about them as World Series contenders if they can't even beat the best team in their own division.
Well, you'd think that, but look who just won the NL pennant last year. It was Philadelphia Phillies as the 6th seed, clearly the 3rd best team in their division. I'm saying that as a Phillies fan. I don't think many Phillies fans would have told you at the end of the regular season that the Phillies were better than the Braves or the Mets, but they got hot at the right time. I think the Padres, to win the World Series, all they need to do is get hot at the right time. They can be a 4, 5, 6 seed But what beating the Dodgers does is wins them the NL West. Obviously, the Padres aren't even in second right now, so they're going to have to do more than just beat the Dodgers. They're going to have to beat a lot of teams, but wins against the Dodgers count double in what we assume to eventually turn into a head-to-head race in the NL West. So I think it's less about we can't take them seriously as World Series contenders if they don't beat the Dodgers, because somebody else might beat the Dodgers, or maybe they'll finally beat them in the playoffs like last year. If you just have to beat them once at the right time, they can still win a World Series with this particular flaw, but they'd really like to get a bye. And doing so, they would really like to beat the Dodgers to get there.
All right, Eric, speaking of hot, who's your favorite DFS pitcher tonight? Let's go.
Yeah, am I crazy if I pick one at Coors Field? I think I might be. And I don't think I would go with Hunter Green in the kind of contest where I just want to finish top half in the double-up contest or something like that. But there's not a lot of particularly compelling on pitching on tonight's slate. And I think I really might look Hunter Green's way in a larger contest. At 8,300, it's a pretty fair price for a guy who sits above 99 miles per hour with his fastball. His changeup, 91.4 miles per hour. Coors Field, the elevation there does things to movement, does things to pitching. Obviously, we know that, but you can just throw really hard and sometimes get results anyway. And that's what's happened for Hunter Green this season. Not really doing anything all that well other than strike out a lot of people, but a 29% strikeout rate with a perfectly fine 9% walk rate. That's getting the job done so far, and I think he'll strike out enough guys to matter here for fantasy purposes, even in Coors Field.
All right, Tanner, favorite DFS pitcher on the slate this evening is going to be...
Going to be Merrill Kelly for the Diamondbacks against the Athletics tonight. He's priced at $8,800. The Athletics can hit homers, but Kelly does a great job of keeping the ball down in the zone, and he really doesn't give up a lot of long balls. Only 4 long home runs allowed this season in 45 innings. He's averaging 1 strikeout per inning, which is very good. Averaged 17.7 fantasy points this season so far. And the Athletics do have the 24th ranked batting average in baseball. So when you look at that, if he can keep the ball down in the zone and keep the ball in the yard, I really like him to have a big night.
All right, Tanner, what about a hitter you like to have a big night?
So I love Lourdes Gurriel Jr., $3,900 for the D-backs. He's averaging 13 fantasy points in his past 10 games. Going to face Drew Rucinski for the Oakland Athletics. I'm going heavy on the Diamondbacks tonight. 0-3 with an 8.16 ERA and a 2.09 whip. Over 14 innings, he's walked 9 batters and allowed 21 hits. Really not delivering in any aspect of the game. And when you look at Gurriel Jr., he's been fantastic. One of the most consistent hitters for the Diamondbacks this season. 308 with a 363 OBP, 5 homers with a team leading 41 hits and 11 doubles. He's going to get his opportunities tonight. I think he's going to have a field day off Rucinski, and the Diamondbacks are going to roll to a victory, and you're going to roll to victory with your DFS lineup as well with him in it.
All right, Eric, who are you rolling to victory with?
Yeah, let's go with Ronald Acuna and Austin Riley. Let's just go with any big Atlanta bat you can fit in today. You're going to have to pay up for Acuna 6,300, so maybe if you can't find the space for him, 5,100 for Austin Riley. Point is, though, get anybody in you can against Cody Bradford. Looks like he's going to be the pitcher for the Rangers. And if I told you I knew a lot about him, I'd be lying. In his most recent article on Fangraphs, his prospect report from last year called him a lower impact arm, didn't even give him a grade. He's got an 0.91 ERA in 7 AAA starts this year, but his peripherals are more or less the same as when he had a 5.01 ERA at the AA level last season. So I'm not at all scared about that good minor league ERA for Cody Bradford, and I want every Atlanta hitter I can get my hands on.
All right, how about some value, Eric? Who are you slotting into your lineup to save you some cash?
Yeah, I'm going to go to a lineup that Tanner's already talked about, the Diamondbacks. I think I'm going to be picking on Drew Rucinski as well. It's a great story, Drew Rucinski, making his way back to the majors after 4 years in Korea at age 34. Had some really good seasons over there, too. And I probably wouldn't be stacking the Samsung Lions against him, but I would be stacking most major league teams. 8.16 ERA in his first 3 starts this season, more walks than strikeouts. Just not looking good for Rucinski. I'll take any Diamondback I can get. How about Pavin Smith as the specific name? 3,200. Somebody who was kind of in the woods for a few years. It didn't look like he had a role to play on this team, but he's played himself into playing time. He got an 821 OPS on the season and just 3 more strikeouts than walks. But really, it's less about him and more about anybody I can get against Rucinski.
All right, Tanner, who you slot into your lineup for some value?
So I'm going to go the Atlanta game. Marcelo Ozuna, $2,600. This is the fantasy value play of the night for me. Only batting 170 on the season with a 693 OPS. But when you look at what he's done in May, he's been a completely different hitter. Slashing 314, 415, 771. 5 homers in 10 RBIs in 9 games this month. Been sensational. And going to go against Cody Bradford. I know he's got really good stats at AAA level, as Eric was just saying. But again, I can't trust that in any way whatsoever because it is his first start in Major League Baseball. And it's not an easy start to make against the Atlanta Braves. So I think Ozuna has a big night. And for the price, you can't beat it.
All right, extra bases. Take us over to the DK Sportsbook. Tanner, what is your best bet this evening?
So I'm going to go with the Dodgers and the Twins over 8.5 runs tonight. Pablo Lopez on the mound, been very good, 2-2 with 3.47 ERA, whip right around 1. But he has to face a Dodgers lineup that has been hitting the ball out of the yard. On the other side, you got Noah Syndergaard on the bump, 6 ERA with a 1.4 whip. He is going to get hit by this Minnesota Twins offense today, and I love the over of 8.5 for that reason.
All right, Eric, what are you rolling with?
Let's go back to picking on Cody Bradford again. Sorry, Cody, never met you. Hope we would get along if we ever hang out. But Atlanta just minus 140 against him in his debut. Charlie Morton on the hill for Atlanta. Maybe he's not peak Charlie Morton. The strikeout rate's down just shy of 22% this year. Still getting outs, though, 3.32 ERA on the season. And the gap between a competent major league starter like him and a guy we've never seen much of before, or not any of before, in Cody Bradford, is pretty big, especially when Atlanta's got quite the lineup to take advantage of it. So just minus 140 against a rookie here. I like the Atlanta side.
All right, good stuff, guys. Appreciate the time, as always. Mike Mutnansky is going to join me next to talk everything NBA, including that unreal performance from Jason Tatum last night. All right, the finals are set, and now you are looking at the odds here. Celtics favored in their series against the Heat, minus 525. Nuggets, slight favorites over the Lakers, not nearly as much as those Eastern Conference final odds. Now let's bring in sports radio host Mike Mutnansky. We're talking Monday Mutt Stack. That's what we like to do here on Mondays. So let's talk about what went down last night, all right? Celtics crushing the 76ers in Game 7. Jason Tatum dropping 51 points. I think it was like the most ever by an NBA player in a Game 7 or something. He had Celtics fans everywhere, though, very worried about his ability to lead a team to a championship just 3 quarters through Game 6. Turned around, right? Now, 5 quarters later, the narrative has completely flipped here, right? And Celtics fans everywhere are praising the ground this man walks on. So how much did Tatum show you as just like a player and being that guy that a team can rely on for like a championship run like this?
Yeah, good morning, Jesse. Yeah, I have been Team Tatum for a while, so I was thrilled to see it because I think something what you said, Aaron, your lead up to this is very important. Boston fans are very impatient with Jason Tatum. There's criticism about him every game in and game out when he doesn't score 35, 40 points. He's the guy fans want to point to. And you mentioned game 6. I don't think it's overstating it to suggest his three-point shot over Joel Embiid in the corner game 6, the Celtics on the ropes, about to lose, team breaking down, maybe coach being fired, rebuilt for next year, and Tatum in the midst of 2.5 terrible games hits a 3 over the MVP, hits 2 more after that, and the Celtics win the game. Obviously, last night he was spectacular, one of the better performances we'll see all year in the NBA, as you said, breaking the Game 7 scoring record. He has shown he's one of the best handful of players in the NBA. He's somebody you can build around, but I think that Game 6 shot over Embiid might have changed the trajectory, not of the Celtic team, but of Tatum's career as well. What would that have meant? Losing to Philadelphia there. They don't. They advance Eastern Conference Finals, and Tatum is a huge reason why.
All right, now let's look ahead here to this Celtics-Heat series. Celtics took out the Heat last year in 7 games, but Miami's been a tough matchup for Boston as the team split this season. I think this matchup's been like 3 out of the last 4 years we've seen these two teams going at it. So how do you see this one playing out, Mutt? And is this going to depend on who we see showing up? Jimmy Butler here, as he seems to just absolutely go off in the playoffs.
Yeah, he has been awesome against the Celtics. And they, going into the series, they're more talented, they're deeper, they're healthier, right? They have everything on their side. They're a huge, huge favorite. I think DK Sportsbook has them somewhere close to minus 500 in terms of winning the series
right now, yeah.
They're supposed to win it, Jesse. They're supposed to win this thing. I'll give you 2 reasons why they might not. I'm picking them to win the series. Celtics get to the NBA Finals. The 2 reasons they might not do it, and I have a lot of respect for Miami. Very tough, very talented, very physical. The coaching matchup is definitely a mismatch. Joe Mazzulla survives and advances, gets the Eastern Conference Final, but he's made some questionable calls here in the playoffs. You tell me that Eric Spoelstra outcoaches Joe Mazzulla, and that's why the Celtics would lose. I'd believe that. The second one goes back to Jason Tatum, who scored 24 points last night on 8 of 10 shooting when matched up with the MVP Joel Embiid. If he goes back to that Atlanta Hawks stretch where he shot under 40% for 3 games, or the games 3, 4, and 5-ish here against the 76ers, then maybe they lose. But assuming Tatum plays to his level, assuming the coaching mismatch is not drastic, the Celtics should win this series. It's a lot to pay to try to pick the Celtics to win right now. I might look at maybe Jason Tatum MVP as something a little more appetizing, but they're supposed to win this series, right?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this other series. So we saw the Lakers take out the Warriors on Friday night. Lots of last dance talk with the Warriors at a bit of a crossroads, and also with the last dance director reportedly filming LeBron this playoff. So are you watching a last dance LeBron's version when it comes out? And what if this isn't his last season here?
Yeah, I saw this story came out over the weekend, and I would much rather watch the Nick Fryer experience, behind the scenes there at DK, the day-to-day of what he does. It's not an anti-LeBron thing. He's one of the greatest players ever. I'm done hating on him and doing this comparison between him and Jordan, whatever. I'm not that interested in him. I was way more interested in the Bulls and Jordan, those teams. When I saw this headline, my first thought was, okay, I'm a loser. I watch every bad sports documentary. I'll watch it, I guess. But do I want it? No, I don't want to watch it, but I probably will, even though I have very little interest in watching the behind the scenes of LeBron and the Lakers the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's also going to be LeBron's probably going to be an executive producer. So it's going to be LeBron, not just LeBron's version. It's LeBron executive produced PR LeBron. All right, so while the Nuggets have quietly dominated the playoffs this season, we still aren't going to talk about them right now. Suns fire Monty Williams this weekend. Right or wrong move by Phoenix? What do we think?
I just think it speaks to his firing, what happens with Doc in Philadelphia, and even Joe Mazzulla, if the Celtics had lost that 76ers series. I think these teams recognize that when you have these star players in their prime, Tatum, Embiid, Durant, not in his prime, but Devin Booker and a really talented group in Phoenix, you've got to find the guy to make it work for that window because the window is so small. You only win NBA championships when you have one of the best players in the league. So it's probably a little bit unfair what they're doing in Phoenix, but I think there's a trend now with coaches who are not getting to NBA finals with top 5, top 10 players. I'm sorry, that's the bar. The bar has been set there. If you don't do that, you're going to be gone. So there's pressure on these coaches now. And I get it. If I'm an owner, if I have a top 5, top 10 player, I want to be in the NBA Finals, and I'll make the coaching change rather than the player change. It's an easier change to make.
All right, now to the Nuggets. We will talk about them. Who do you have in the Western Conference Finals?
Yeah, it's a close. It's a coin flip to me. They played 4 times this year. They split 2-2. These two teams are 13-0 at home so far in the NBA playoffs. The only 2 teams have not lost at home, and I feel like that's the series we're looking at. You're looking at a 7-game series where Denver wins that 7th game at home. I give them a slight edge in this series. I don't want to lay the -175, -180 for the series. The bet I want to make here is Jokic to win the MVP of the series at -130. There's nobody else, if Denver's going to win this series, is going to win the MVP. It's a better price. It's a risk of injury. But if he gets hurt, they're probably not going to win anyway. So I'm going to take Jokic to win the MVP. Denver Nuggets in a very highly contested 7-game series, even though executives are probably desperate, Jesse, to get the Lakers and the Celtics in an NBA final for the TV product.
Oh, primetime TV viewing. We can't let you go without a little Preakness talk, though, Mudd. What do we need to know as we look ahead to Saturday?
We sat here last Monday, and I told you how great, Jesse, you and Emerson, how great the Preakness field was. The Derby favorite that scratched, he's going to run. Multiple horses out of the Derby. Loaded Preakness field. Well, a week later, the field stinks. Mage won the Kentucky Derby at 15-1. He's the only horse right now, as of Monday morning, coming from the Derby to run in the Preakness. A bunch of horses that really are not top contenders for Triple Crowns are going to face him. So what you have to know on Monday before they draw this race later on today is that Mage, at least on paper, has an easier task than most Derby horses because the Preakness field is not good. First Mission is the horse going to be talked about all week for Brad Cox. He'll be the first or second choice in this race. He can upset Mage in the Preakness, but the field, it's not very good. I jinxed it last week. It's not a great group at Pimlico for the second Jewel of Triple Crown on Saturday.
All right, we'll keep our eye on that. Good stuff, Mudd. We'll be right back to talk PGA Tour with Jeff Ulrich, and we'll take a look at his betting card. Jeff Ulrich is joining me now to give his favorite DFS and sportsbook plays ahead of this week's PGA Championship. But first, Jeff, should the people pay you any heed, pay you any mind? Let's pull up your betting card for the Byron Nelson. So, Jeff,
Jesse.
over par overall on the tournament this week. We're giving you a bogey for your Cam Champ T10 bet and Tom Kim winner bet. Salvage pars with Woo as he does finish T23, and you just missed cashing that Bazenhout T20 as he finishes one stroke outside of that. overall thoughts on the Byron Nelson, and this is just how the cookie crumbles, you know?
It was all worth it to hear you say Poseidon, or to attempt to say Poseidon on Monday morning, Jesse. Look, it's a wild event. I mean, like, again, guys were shooting like 15 under on the weekend and not even making the top 10. So it was, a tough one to predict. The world will never know how close I came to betting Jason Day at the start of the week and decided to pivot off him to Tom Kim. But that's that. That's golf betting. One little wrong decision and you look like an idiot. But certainly Poseidon was good. He almost got us there for the top 20. Would have been nice. Probably would have been a week saver. But, it's one of those events. Don't be too hard on yourself. It's variance filled. And we can certainly use what we learned from last week into this week, especially with guys like Jason Day.
Wow, Jeff, what an unreal segue. So it is major week, so let's get right to it. Scheffler co-favorite, John Rahm at 750. Did Scheffler's performance this week, like he said, we can use stuff from this past week to look at this week. Does it have any effect on how you're viewing him now?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you would want a guy who's second favorite at plus 750 to potentially, come through in that spot. You really would. I mean, I'm not going to hold it against Scotty Scheffler or be like too worried about it. But, Scheffler started out the event really hot and he looked just a little bit off on the weekend. I mean, he certainly didn't look as sharp as Jason Day, didn't look as sharp as Austin Eckrout, to be honest. So, when you're betting guys at the top of the board, like the very top, we're not talking about plus 2,000. These little things matter, in my opinion. If you had a little bit of a decision to make between John Rahm and Scotty Scheffler, I probably would have let that event decide it for me and lean to Rahm. But at the same time, maybe we could see Scotty Scheffler's number grow. There's not too much that I'm going to take from it. Again, I'm being very nitpicky with this. But, I mean, Scotty Scheffler getting beat on the weekend by Day and by a couple other sort of lesser-known players, it's not concerning, but it's just, out there. And again, when you're betting at this price, it would be enough for me to just say I'm okay. I don't really need to get on a guy at plus 750 right now.
All right, Jeff, Jason Day, plus 2,800. Yeah. You said you were like this close to betting him at the Byron Nelson. So did his win yesterday give you enough confidence to ride with him at that number?
Yeah, I mean, look, Jason Day is already down to plus 2,200 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. He's going to be a very popular play in DFS. But, I mean, look, it's for good reason. I mean, he gained over 6 strokes on approach last week. And you look at Jason Day's performance in this major and in this part of the world. I mean, he has won multiple times in just the northeastern United States. He was second at Baltusrol in the 2016 PGA Championship. I think this is a very good setup for Jason Day. He's driving it extremely well. We haven't even really seen what I would call like alpha prime Jason Day putting yet. I mean, where he's just going out and gaining 8 strokes per event. The putter has room to grow here, and I think we're getting a very fair number. I mean, again, if prime Jason Day is back, he should be below 2,000, especially at an event like this, in a place like this. So I think the number is very fair. It's gone down, like I said at the start, to plus 2,200. So I think we're closer to where he should be. But plus 2,800, that was a really good value. Clearly, some people thought the same because it's been bet down. But I give Jason Day all the chance in the world this week to repeat, or to go back to back, I should say, with wins on the PGA.
All right, Jeff, who's finishing highest among the rest of those in the plus 1,200 to like plus 3,000 range? Got guys like Xander, Cantlay, JT, Brooks, DJ, Finau, Hovland. Who do you like?
I mean, and again, like, Jason Day is obviously in this range too. And when you're looking to start betting cards, and let's say you haven't made any investment this week, if you just look between plus 2,000 and plus 3,000, you're well within your right to just take 3 guys from this range and just call it a week, because I think you're getting 3 players most likely who are have a very good shot of winning here, and ranking them is really tough. I mean, to me, the guys who stand out the most, I actually like both LIV guys in Dustin and Brooks, but it's Xander is the one who stands out to me the most. It really does. I mean, I would put him at the top of this list. It's very close, but 4th at the RBC, an elite field event, 2nd at the Wells Fargo. Xander's been all over leaderboards. And 10th at the Masters, I really like that as well. I think that what we've seen since the PGA Championship has moved to May, the winners here have typically done pretty well at the Masters. Brooks in 2019 was 4th at the Masters. Actually, I believe it was 2nd at the Masters, and then came in and won the PGA Championship. Even Phil, when he won at Kiowa Island, was 21st at the Masters. JT had a top 10 at the Masters. So Xander with the top 10 at the Masters, coming in following that up. Some players had a lot of success. He's had multiple top 5 finishes at the U.S. Open when it was, again, in the northeastern United States. So he's had a lot of success in this area of the world as well. I think the setup's fine. I just like the way he's playing, and he's a player who's well overdue for a win. We've seen him win against elite fields before, the Olympic gold medal. Xander's due, and at plus 2,200, plus 2,000 now. I like him as a target a lot.
Jeff, who might be a little underpriced, perhaps, and maybe you really like their number right now?
Yeah, I mean, moving up the board here, I mean, I have to go back to my guy, Tommy Fleetwood, at plus 6,000. I think that what you're seeing with this number from Fleetwood just doesn't reflect his recent form. Since the Florida swing, really since the Players' Championship, Fleetwood has been all over leaderboards. He's been gaining lots of strokes tee to green. His last start at the Wells Fargo, he gained over 9 strokes tee to green. He's hitting the ball extremely well. The around the green game has been good all season. And again, just like Xander and just like Jason Day, Tommy Fleetwood in this part of the world, very good. Second at Shinnecock Hills at the 2018 U.S. Open. He's been in contention at major championships before. Fleetwood's playing really good golf, and he plays his best golf on tough golf courses. You know, second at the Valspar about a month and a half ago, another really tough winding golf course. I think it's a good setup for Tommy Fleetwood. The plus 6,000 number just doesn't make sense to me. It's a player with 5 top 5 finishes in major championships. You look at his last 6 major finishes, all really solid, and a plus 450 for a top 10 as well. You can take that. I think Fleetwood's very good target as we go back, and I'm just going to throw a shout out. I do not hate Ricky Fowler this week as well. He's won before in Massachusetts around this part of the world, plus 8,000 and plus 650. Ricky's got a very, very good record at this major as well, like those two guys further back in the odds.
All right, how far down the board are you looking, Jeff? Any
Oh, boy.
long shots that catch your eye here? I know you got some.
I mean, I got a couple here, and we'll there's, you know what? Again, just like with the last question, there's 2 guys that really stand out. The first is Harris English. He's plus 25,000. Harris English was 4th in his last time out. He gained over 7 strokes on approach at the Wells Fargo. This is a very, very talented golfer, extremely good around the greens. And much like all these guys I've been talking about, Harris English has 2 top 5 finishes in U.S. Opens to his credit. He does not mind a tough golf course, and a lot of his best success has come in this part of the world. Again, you know, at Winged Foot, he was top 5. That's not too far from here. A similar, longer par 70 golf course. He won the Travelers, which isn't far from here either. Harris English has kind of been on the comeback trail. The ball striking took a big step up last week. I'll be dead honest. I don't know if he's really got a chance to win, but at plus 25,000, the number just doesn't make sense. And I think for a top 10 bet there, he does make a lot of sense. And then the other one I'm going to throw out, Steven Yager at plus 11,000 right now. I think this number may actually get bigger if you want to wait, but Yager has been absolutely beast moding it off the tee. He's a player with a ton of confidence. He's won 5 times on the Korn Ferry Tour. Actually, might be 6 times, but his putter caught heat last week. If you want a real long shot, guy who's just out there Sunday and nobody knows who he is, Steven Yager would not shock me at this point. He's playing extremely good golf. Like I said, you may want to wait for that number a little bit later in the week. I think it'll get bigger. He just got added to the field because John Daly withdrew. So Yager and English, 2 guys to really look at further back in the odds.
All right, good stuff, Jeff. Thank you. Much more golf talk coming your way on Wednesday with Len, Jeff, and Jason Sobel. So make sure that you tune in on Wednesday for that. And Jeff, make sure you stick around because we are going to talk NFL future bets right after this. It is never too early to talk NFL futures, which is exactly what we're going to be doing with Jeff Ulrich and Pierce Dietrich. So, fellas, let's talk about NFL MVP odds here, okay? So, it's all QBs at the top of the board. Finally, way down at plus 10,000, we have 2 running backs and 4 wide receivers, okay? So, we got Kupp, Jefferson, Chase, Hill, Taylor, and McCaffrey. Jeff, what do you think? Any shot for a non-QB this year?
No, there's none.
Right.
There's literally none. I mean, you don't need to think about it. You don't need to go there. The plus 100 to 1 looks good. These guys should be plus 1,000 to 1. I mean, this is a quarterback award. I mean, I'm not being facetious either. We just saw Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson break records, put up like receiving records that I don't even think like a decade ago we think guys at this volume would be able to do, but they barely got noticed. They barely got a scratch. In terms of running backs, like, I mean, the day of the running back getting like 400 carries, I think that's pretty much done. You need to stick to the quarterbacks. And even when you're going further back in odds, you need to look at quarterbacks. I mean, you don't necessarily need to go that far back, but even long shots, I mean, you don't need to look at other positions. So no, you don't need to look at the wide receivers, anyone else, just the quarterbacks.
Pierce, Matt Ryan's odds are on there at plus 10,000, and he's not even with a team, so.
Yeah, those should be probably a little bit longer. It is never too early to talk about this, but Jeff's right. This is never going to happen. It is fun to envision a running back or a wide receiver coming through and being MVP, not just because of the odds and the payoff, but if a running back is able to do this, we're talking about a historic season, and so that's pretty fun to watch. And it's not unheard of, but it practically is when we look at the modern NFL. You got to go back to 2012, where Adrian Peterson had 2,000 yards rushing. I don't think we're going to get a 2,000-yard rusher. It would be awesome to see it happen. And if one of those guys on that list, which is probably none of them, could get 2,000, sure. Then you got to go back to 2006 with LT rushing for 1,800 yards, 25 touchdowns, another 500 through the air, 50 catches. That's pretty crazy. The year before that, there was another running back, 2005, Sean Alexander. He also had 1,800 yards. He might have gotten close to 2,000, but he had 28 touchdowns. I mean, it would be great. I would love to see a running back do that, but it's just not going to happen.
All right, last week we talked about some rookie totals on the offensive side, so let's check 2 defensive rookie totals here. Tyree Wilson and Will Anderson sack totals are up on the DK Sportsbook. Pierce, initial thoughts on these lines, and do you have maybe like an early lean here?
The line's not too high, but it's not really that easy either. I think people look at both these guys' lines and say, it's not that out of this world. You look at the record for rookie, it's Javon Curse at 14.5 sacks in 1999. Since then, or since the beginning of the NFL, we've had 12 rookies go over 12 sacks. You look at last year, only 2 guys went above 6, both of them coming from the Detroit Lions, which is interesting because Detroit constantly found themselves in shootouts and pass-heavy scripts. And so if you look at that in terms of for Will Anderson, I don't know if Houston's going to be in the game scripts that are going to allow him to get a lot of sacks. Now, Tyree, I think, is in the best spot of all if we get the defensive line for the Raiders bouncing back. If we get Max Crosby and Chandler Jones playing like they're supposed to, then this could be a very dynamic defensive line, and I think he could easily clear this number. It just depends on his supporting cast. He would be the one that I would favor in the over department.
Jeff, some other factors involved, but do you agree on that? Tyree is in the best spot here?
I mean, just from a total perspective, it's pretty tempting. I mean, 6.25, obviously, for a player who's got, freak athletic potential from all reports. I would personally, I would rather take the over on Will Anderson. I really do. Tyree Wilson also has some injury concerns, a little bit of foot issues, which is what kind of caused them to fall. It basically comes down to, I just don't trust the Raiders. I'd rather take the over on Will Anderson at 8.25. He was a sack master in college. He's got a defensive head coach who basically, I think, forced the franchise to move up and grab him along with CJ Stroud. So I think Anderson's going to get plenty of usage. I think DeMeco Ryans wants him in the scheme, that kind of player, and he's going to be let loose. And I think 8.25, when you look at Will Anderson did in college, went well over this number last 2 seasons, averaged around 13 sacks per year. I think he'll as long as he stays on the field, I really think Anderson's got a chance to put up 10 plus sacks. So I would rather take Anderson. The number on Wilson is very tempting. It feels a little trappy though, and again, I just don't really want anything to do with the Raiders. So give me Will Anderson's over if I had to pick between these two.
All right, before I let you guys go, how about Coach of the Year? Huh? We have the schedules, draft, most of the offseason deals are done. Jeff, who's your too early pick for Coach of the Year?
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at Coach of the Year, you really want to target these teams and these coaches who can really just have that bounce back season. Look for teams who weren't good last year, but have that ability potentially to jump up. I mean, I think a lot of people are on Eberflus and the Bears. Sean Payton's up there. I'm going to go further back. How about Matt LaFleur? I'm plus 2,000. If Matt LaFleur comes through in a winning season, Jordan Love looks better than expected, the Green Bay Packers potentially push for the division win, I think he'll get rewarded. I really do. Plus 2,000 is very fair. What have we seen from LaFleur since he moved to the Packers? Had a couple 13-win seasons. This is a very good head coach. Probably should have won again. And again, where is all the credit going to go if the Packers are good without Aaron Rodgers? A lot of it's going to go to the coach, and probably rightfully so. So I think LaFleur is still being a little bit overlooked here. And I think the Packers are in a better spot than people think. They have a weak schedule, just like the Giants did last year. And I don't think that the Lions did themselves any favors at the draft. I like Matt LaFleur of the Packers.
All right, Pierce, way too early pick for Coach of the Year is?
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Jeff. I'm probably not going to go as far as LaFleur. I'm just going to stick with his original pick, which is Eberflus. Because, I mean, there's two trends that you look for when picking Coach of the Year. It's either the bounce back guy or the guy that has the regular season. And there's a pretty good track record of this happening. Last year we had Dable turns around the Giants. The year before that, it went to Vrabel, who had a great regular season, who just barely beat out Zach Taylor, who turned around the Bengals. The year before that, you've got Jim Harbaugh with an amazing regular season, or Stefanski in Cleveland, who turned them around. So it's usually regular season or a turnaround situation. It's hard to predict who's going to go 14-3 or win 15 games. It's a lot easier to go the route that Jeff is talking about and finding the bad team, which would be the Bears. Maybe look at the Colts and say, hey, I like what they've done in the offseason. I think they can turn it around. They don't have to, necessarily win the championship. They just got to go above 500, and you're going to be a Coach of the Year.
All right, we will mark the tape right here and see if either one of you is right. All right, that is going to do it for The Sweat. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure you watch the Tuesday Takeover with Jared Carrabis coming your way tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Samsung TV Plus channel 1168 or DraftKingsNetwork.com. We will see you tomorrow for that.